Hey guys, it's Mark, and if you're new to the channel, I work with established online founders who want to scale their business without chasing more and more tactics and, quite simply, burning out. Now, in this video, I'm going to help you solve that exact problem, but not in the way that you might think. Now, I want you to picture this. You're in your kitchen at 2 a.m., laptop open on the counter, frantically trying to figure out why your Meta ads have just stopped working. Your phone's buzzing with notifications, you're wondering what to do next, and your partner walks in, sees you there, and just shakes their head. I've had this exact conversation with dozens of founders over the years, and they all say the same thing. Mark, I built this business to have freedom, but ultimately I feel like I'm trapped in a hamster wheel, and it's spinning faster every single day. Now, if that is something that sounds familiar to you, then there's one thing I've gotten very good at, and that is helping online founders stop the firefighting, preventing the fires coming and erupting in the first place. And over the past 15 years, I've worked with hundreds of online businesses doing between 100K and 2 million in revenue and growing a combined 47 million in additional revenue. But we haven't done it through hacks and gimmicks. We've done it through aligned growth. That's what I call it, aligned growth. And here's the thing that most coaches or whatever you want to call people like me won't tell you. And it's the reason you feel overwhelmed is not because you're not working hard enough. It's because you're playing the wrong game entirely. Now, I want you to think about it like this. Imagine you're a master chef, but instead of having a well-organized kitchen with systems and processes, you're trying to cook a 5-course meal using only a camping stove with ingredients scattered all over the place. No prep work done. You've got orders coming in randomly. Now, you might be the best chef in the world, but you're going to burn out because you're trying to create excellence in what is ultimately chaos. And today I'm going to show you how the people that break through do something completely different. They stop being reactive firefighters and become proactive architects of their growth. So we're going to look at core principles. The first one being systems versus tactics. So the fire prevention principle. Let's imagine two pizza shop owners. We've got Tony, who owns a place downtown. Every day is chaos. When the oven breaks, he scrambles to find a repair guy. When his best employee calls in sick, he's making pizzas until midnight. He's a great firefighter. He can handle any crisis that comes his way, but he is utterly exhausted. And then across town, you've got Maria, who owns a similar pizza place. Her oven has issues and they've been caught early during the weekly inspection and they're fixed. When the employees ring in sick, the training program she's got in place means someone else can step in and she sleeps like a baby at night. The difference is Tony fights fires and Maria prevents them. And that is exactly the situation I discovered working with a UK home improvement brand. They came to me with a decent marketing efficiency ratio. They just struggled to scale it. They were fighting fires every day instead of building prevention systems. They had a silo of projects, tactics, processes, ideas, focus all over the place. But they were reactive masters stuck at about 400K in revenue because every growth attempt was limited and created 3 new problems. Now, what we did is simplified it and within 90 days grew 38%. And it wasn't through new channels or clever campaigns, but it was with aligning with what they were already doing and what was working well. Because the truth is that the tactics that you might want to implement, they're like buckets of water. You throw them at fires as they pop up. I have a problem with X, deal with it with X. Sprinkler systems are the opposite. They handle the point of the fire itself. Which brings me on to point 2, the message versus the medium and the ideal that the fundamentals never really change within the marketing world. Imagine you've got a street musician, he's got an amazing song, it makes people stop. They listen, they drop coins. It doesn't matter particularly what instrument he's playing. He could be playing in any major city, London, New York, Tokyo. He could just be singing But what moves people to actually take action is the song. The location and the instrument are merely delivery mechanisms, and it's very similar in your business. I see founders obsessing over the instrument whilst completely ignoring the song. They're thinking, should I run Meta ads, Google ads, TikTok, LinkedIn? What about iOS updates? Well, they're the wrong questions, because fundamentally, the underlying things that make all of those work haven't changed. And I've worked with dozens of brand owners that have come to me and said things have stopped working. They've often spent months jumping from platform to platform, getting mediocre results everywhere. Now, the problem was never the platform or the targeting or any of the technical aspects. The issue is the core message. They're relying on targeting and tracking to do all the heavy lifting instead of crafting messages that actually genuinely resonate. And I must express that marketing is a creative endeavor. It is not about pressing buttons and being the best person at controlling ads manager. There's a wonderful book that was written in 1966 by Eugene Schwartz called Breakthrough Advertising. There's David Ogilvy, the master of advertising, who operated in the 1960s, and all of their principles still work today because they're not focused on platform mechanics. They're focused on human psychology. And human psychology has fundamentally changed very little within the past 200, 300 years. The key way to look at this is the platform's the instrument and the message is the song. Your job is to master the song and then get that out in the right way possible. Now, point number 3, alignment versus growth, and the idea that you've got a business that's created freedom. Is it a paradox or is it the truth? Imagine you're building a house, you're excited about having this beautiful home, you can start adding things onto it. If you don't check whether the foundations themselves can handle that, you'll add a second story and a third, and you may keep building bigger and bigger because bigger's better, right? That's what we're all told. And then one day the cracks start to appear, the walls are looking worse for wear, and the floors start to sag. The dream home becomes a structural nightmare that costs more to maintain than it's worth. I question whether businesses do become like this also. And this could be called, what I'm going to say, growth without alignment. And it's one of the biggest problems that I see in the online business space. Most people have started their business for freedom, time, location, financial freedom. But the way it was meant to liberate them has become often quite the opposite. Now, generally speaking, I work with founders doing between 100K and 2 million. They tell me variations of the same thing. I built the business for flexibility, but I actually can't take a day off. And that is misaligned growth. Revenue without systems and expansion without intention creates this freedom paradox. Growth without alignment creates complexity without clarity. You end up doing more but enjoying it less, and you're making money, but you've lost meaning. Aligned growth means every new revenue stream, every time the business grows, it extends and grows your core. It increases your freedom, it reduces workload, profitable, but it's sustainable. So moving on to point number 4, one channel mastery versus multi-channel mediocrity. So picture a laser versus a flashlight. You've got a flashlight which spreads light everywhere. It's useful, it's not particularly powerful. A laser focuses so much energy in one point, it can cut through steel. Yet most founders are trying to be flashlights in a world that ultimately rewards precision. The laser wins. Now, the biggest lie in online marketing is that you need to be everywhere. You don't need to start off omnipresent. You need dominance in a place that matters. And I've worked with countless founders who've come to me and they're trying to run ads on Meta, Google, LinkedIn, doing SEO, pushing email marketing at the same time, going on podcasts, attending trade shows. They are everywhere. And at the same time, they're nowhere because none of it gets all of their attention. And when the conversation crops up as well, Where do you get your best customers? What is your cheapest place to acquire a customer? What's the most efficient place to acquire a customer? They're only putting 20% of their resources in that channel because they're so diversified. And there's the problem. 20% of their resources are going into the best channel and 80% into everything else. And that has to be flipped around completely so that 80% of energy within the day-to-day and within the business itself becomes focused on what is working, and 20% is remained for testing purposes. I'd rather see a business I'm working with own one traffic source than be average across 5. You master one channel until it's predictable and scalable and profitable, and only then do you expand it beyond that. There's the old saying of the riches are in the niches and the niches are the focus. So go deep before you go wide. And the final point for today, lifetime value versus acquisition cost, which is the key to running any online business. What does it cost you to acquire a customer, and what are they worth to you over the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years? Now imagine you've got 2 restaurant owners. Restaurants don't operate online, but they're great examples. Owner A is obsessing over getting the cheapest customers possible, constant discounts, constantly competing on price, racing to the bottom. The restaurant's always busy. Sure, he's run off his feet, but he's barely profitable because his customers only come in when ultimately there is a deal to be had. Whereas owner B is focused on creating an experience that is remarkable so that customers trust them, they become regulars, and yes, it's more patient in approach, it costs more to get each customer, but they come back, they refer friends, they're willing to pay more premium prices, they love the experience. Now, who's going to have a better business long term? Because this is just like what we mentioned near the start of this video. Hurrah if you've got this far. Tactics will always be a short-term gain versus strategy and thinking longer term. And this is the choice that most online founders face. And quite frankly, most go for option A without realizing it. The broke marketers obsess over lowering cost of acquisition, whereas the wealthier ones want to increase lifetime value because they know that's the key thing. Now, founders might spend 80% of their time trying to reduce their cost of acquisition by a very small marginal amount, whilst customer lifetime value and AOV stays flat. If you was to discard reducing the CPA in the short term and focus on the AOV and the LTV, you could then afford to outbid everybody else, and the person who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. So spend 80% of your time figuring out how to make each customer more valuable, and 20% of the time trying to reduce acquisition costs, and not the other way around. If your customers ultimately are worth more than your competitors' customers, you by default win the acquisition game automatically. Let's think next about the calm versus the frantic founder. You've got 2 ship captains in a storm. Captain A is running around the deck, shouting orders, adjusting the sails, steering the wheel, working harder than anyone else, but the crew are a confused mess because he keeps changing directions. The ship is lurching from side to side, taking on water, whereas Captain B stands calm at the helm. His crew know their roles, all of the ship systems are designed for storms, and everyone executes their part of a well-rehearsed plan. The ship cuts through the waves, both ships face the same storm, but only the one that has a captain who has built systems for rough weather sails through nicely. There are essentially 2 types of business owners, the frantic founder and the calm operator. Which one do you want to be? Do you want to react to every algorithmic change or competitor move or revenue dip? Or do you want to be the calm operator that looks at things over a longer term, that builds long-term systemic strategy, and when opportunities arise, you capitalize on it rather than chasing tactics. And that's not about talent or luck. It's all about infrastructure. The Frantic founder is ultimately the foundation of the business still, whereas the calm operator has built things that mean the business can separate from them. And that is what ultimately you want. So let's think about our final point. Strategic simplicity versus tactical complexity. Now, thematic to this entire video has been escaping from the tactics maze and thinking about strategy. Look at this, thinking about a Swiss watch versus a smartphone. A modern smartphone, as wonderful as they are, they can do 1,000 things, but when the battery goes, nothing works. Whereas the Swiss watch, as beautiful as they are, keep working for decades. Most successful online businesses are strategically sophisticated, but tactically simple. So they've got a deep understanding of their market, but simple execution of their plans. The complexity is the enemy of execution because every additional step, tool, or process you add in increases the chance of failure, and it reduces the speed of implementation. So I've seen founders with elaborate 47-step processes and many steps within their marketing processes, whereas, and they're struggling, whereas competitors have nailed the message, and the message underpins the strategy. So good messaging equals great strategy that can be executed well. And in the future, you'll thank yourself for thinking about it in this way. So to close out, here's the truth about aligned growth. It's not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things better. It's not about growing faster. It's about growing stronger. And the businesses that survive and thrive are the ones that build systems instead of fighting fires. They craft messages instead of chasing platforms and create alignment instead of just adding revenue in. And ultimately, your business should give you freedom, not imprison you. It should amplify your strengths, not expose your weaknesses, grow your impact, not just your income. And that is ultimately what is aligned growth. And it separates frantic founders from calm operators. I hope that has been useful. And if it resonates with you and you're ready to ultimately stop the firefighting and start fire preventing, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.